to the TMZ Podcast. I'm Charlie, and this is Charlie.
I am too.
Our special guest has the most famous voice in the world. Susan Bennett is best known for being the voice of Apple's personal assistant, Siri. Welcome, Susan. Or should I say, hey, Siri?
Hello.
I love it. Okay, so a lot of people would have assumed the voice of Siri was just like a computer-generated voice. We all have used Siri, like, hey, Siri, what's the weather? Hey, Siri, set my alarm. But the voice is not a robot. You are the voice. So tell us, how did you get the gig?
Well, to tell you the truth, the recordings were done almost 20 years ago.
Wow.
And I was doing them for a company that I record messaging for. And so I've talked to some other original Siri voices too, and they have the same experience. We all thought we were just doing recordings for phone messaging.
Okay.
And so when 6 years later, we found out, I'm who? I'm Siri, what? And so we weren't given the job of being Siri, when we were doing the recordings. We were just doing these crazy recordings that had all sorts of wacky phrases and sentences to try to get all of the sound combinations in the language. And then what they do afterwards is technicians and computers would go into the recordings and extract certain sounds and then form their own sentences. And that's how all of these virtual assistants were created. And of course, it's cool because Siri was the very first one. So that's kind of a fun thing.
When did you learn that you were actually the voice of Siri?
Well, she appeared on October 4th, 2011, and that's when I found out because a fellow voice actor emailed me and said, hey, we're playing around with this new iPhone 4S. Isn't this you?
Wow.
And I went, what? So I went on the Apple side and I listened and I said, uh-oh. What?
Did you rush out and get an iPhone, or did you start using Siri because it's just like, oh my God, I'm talking to me?
Actually, my husband went out and got the 4S.
Oh,
Yeah. I kind of waited a while.
But I imagine when you started, it would have been sort of like just amazing and mind-blowing that you're talking to a virtual assistant who is you, and you can ask yourself all these sort of questions and you hear it at the supermarket or something like that.
Yeah, it's weird. After I did all those recordings, and of course, none of us really realized we were just doing this for a giant voice bank. And in the future, people would just be using our voices. To this day, sometimes I'll hear a voice that I've never been paid for. And so I get my agent on it.
Yeah, no kidding.
But yeah, it was, you know what it was? It was the very first of all of this stuff happening. And so we didn't really have a good idea of what was going on. Because 20 years ago, you couldn't have imagined the stuff that we do today, really.
Totally. I imagine that when you're doing those recordings and you don't know where they'll go, and then they blow up and everyone around the world is hearing your voice, you're like, why didn't you guys should have paid me like infinity dollars?
Yeah,
like
right,
everyone.
exactly.
Do you think about that sometimes, that your voice is being used so much and you've been compensated for you didn't even know what you were doing?
Yeah. I heard a great story about a famous actress. I won't mention her name just in case. She did record a commercial for a salad dressing, a national commercial. She was paid $300, and then they ended up using it for 20 years or something.
Wow.
So, it's you have to be careful. That's the thing.
Yeah.
And we didn't realize, we were very naive, I guess, just to read all this stuff. But for one thing, it was a ton of work. And when you're a freelancer, it's nice to have a ton of work. And the second thing was, it was kind of challenging. It was kind of interesting to read. Interesting might be pushing it, because some of the phrases and sentences were pretty strange, but everything had to be read exactly the same, so that when the technicians went in afterwards to extract, sounds, vowels and consonants and diphthongs and stuff, they couldn't have one up here and another one down there.
Right.
And so it had to be read very consistently, almost monotonish. So it was a bit challenging, but it was kind of interesting.
So your husband goes out, gets the iPhone shortly after you find out that you are the voice of Siri. So did you then start using Siri?
I didn't. No. And in fact, to this day, I rarely use Siri.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah.
What about Alexa? Kind of your competitor. Do you ever use
No,
Alexa?
no, I just, it's really funny and it doesn't make any sense having been a voice actor for so many years. I don't like listening to voices talking to me. I'd rather read
Mm.
Oh,
the
okay.
information that I need. So I'm very old school in that way. So
And just because we're on the topic, what do you think of Alexa? Do you think it's a really good rival to Siri? Do you think Siri's better? Just hearing the voices?
Oh, I don't think there's a better, I think that that Amazon got the jump on Apple by coming out with the Echo and,
Yeah.
having Alexa just out there and not just in a phone. I think both of the voices are good. And of course, now the current voice is not mine. So of course that's not as good.
Of
Yeah,
course.
duh.
Of course. Like you had a career outside of being Siri, so I wonder if being such a distinctive, famous voice helped or hurt that career.
I was concerned when I found out that I was the voice of Siri because I thought it might affect my voiceover work. But there were a lot of other variables in there. All of a sudden, I've been doing voiceover work for decades now. And, like about 10 or 12 years ago, it just kind of blossomed and it became a thing. Voiceover became a thing. And it was something that people aspired to do. And it was not something that even famous actors and people would do a lot of that kind of work. So, it didn't affect that as much as I suspected that it would. But on the other hand, it actually gave me a whole new career
Mm.
Wow.
because I do a lot of Siri speaker events.
Oh, you do?
Oh, okay.
COVID kind of put the kibosh on that for a while, and I had ended up just doing some virtual events, which aren't nearly as much fun. But yeah, and it was kind of cool because it totally new to me that I had to sit down and write my own presentations, and so it was really cool. So, it's one of those things where, when you get thrown a surprise in life and you're not sure how you feel about it, you got to try to figure out how to make it work for you. So
Right.
Yeah.
that's what I ended up doing. Yeah.
So we have this story that we did on the website this week about Scarlett Johansson. Basically,
Mhm.
she got into some kind of like battle with OpenAI because OpenAI created a new voice called Sky. And
Mhm.
basically, the voice that they used sounded so much like Scarlett. So she lawyered up. She was not happy about this. And then they ended up not using, they stopped using the product
Mhm.
because of Scarlett, openly saying that she was not okay with this. And they did say, like, we didn't mean for it to sound like Scarlett. But I mean, if you listen to it, it did sound like her. And even the CEO had tweeted out something saying her, kind of a reference to the voice
Right.
that she played in the movie.
Right.
Hearing the story, do you have empathy for Scarlett?
Yes, but I think because of the fact, I mean, that's happening to all kinds of voice actors all the time. If, those of us that did those, famous recordings 20 years ago, my voice shows up in all kinds of places. And I tell people, listen, I'll tell my friends, listen out for it. If you if you hear my voice somewhere, let me know and maybe my agent can get me paid for it. But I think it was an it had a different kind of effect on a person like Scarlett Johansson because she's a famous person. She's a very successful and talented actress. And so for her voice just to be out there, particularly after they had asked if she would like to be the voice of their system, and she said she declined, and then they found a voice that sounded just like it anyway. I don't blame her at all. I think she did the right thing, really.
How often do you or your friends hear your voice on other devices? And then, sort of, what's your recourse for people using your voice without your consent?
And there isn't much, really. The only time that I can really get recourse is if someone uses it in a broadcast way, if it's on a commercial or something like that. In fact, one of my agents years ago heard my voice in I think a Buick commercial. It was one of their cars. I was the car voice on the commercial, but the
Oh,
fact that it was a national commercial, well, they got me paid for that, so that was great.
oh, that's good. That's good.
As AI gets involved in all of this stuff, it's going to be very, very complicated. Somehow they're going to have to regulate this because it could be the end of the voiceover business for people. I mean, there are going to be a lot of voice actors who lose work because of this, and just the everyday working voiceover person doesn't have the clout, that Scarlett Johansson is going to have, and they're not going to have as quick a resolution to their problem as she had. So it's something that we're really gonna have to keep an eye on. It's kind of scary, actually.
It is,
Yeah,
especially
it
when,
is.
yeah, as you say, famous voices are sort of replicated or sort of imitated, like it was seemingly so in the Scarlett case. Um, do you think it's wrong of like a company to sort of try to imitate a celebrity's voice and for their AI product without actually using that celebrity?
Yeah, I don't think it's the right thing to do. I think it's right on the edge of dishonest.
Yeah.
Yeah, because your voice is a very, very personal thing. And of course, there are people that can imitate your voices, and there are a lot of comedians and show people that can, completely imitate other people's voices. But a voice is a very personal thing, I think, especially if you use it professionally. And so you really don't want to hear it especially with some product. Maybe it's you being used in some product that's horrific to you.
Right.
There's no no, I don't want to sell that.
I totally get that. And that's why if I was Scarlett and I heard my voice on some other AI product, maybe I'm not down with the whole AI. I don't know what she's down with. And so, yeah, I definitely empathize with her. What do you think about AI getting involved with these virtual assistants?
I don't think that AI should have anything to do with human voices.
Okay.
AI is going to be really, really, very, very helpful to us, as we move on in this technology culture that we have now. It's going to do wonderful things in the medical field and technological field, scientific, space travel, all that kind of thing. But I really hope that they just put the kibosh on the voice thing,
Yeah,
because that's just going to put a lot of people out of work.
and
You know,
a lot of people are praising Scarlett for coming forward, kind of,
absolutely.
stopping this. Do you have a message for Scarlett?
Well, no, just thank you. Other than that, yeah. And I really think she did the right thing, and I'm glad that she did it.
Well, also, as much as one might like to stop AI and this virtual assistance and with voice technology, like they're using it on Alexa soon. Apple's got a conference coming up next month where they're going to unveil AI Siri. So it's kind of like one of these inevitable things that
Yeah.
It's taking over.
it's taking over. So what do you think about sort of like then they're going to announce like an AI Siri, and it's just like it's crazy.
Yeah. Uh, I don't really like it. I think that a lot of it's going to put a lot of voice actors out of work,
Yeah.
and especially, we're sort of in a culture where, money is king. People are the most important thing to these big corporations is the price. And so if you can get some little AI system that's going to be half the price of the human, what are you going to do? What you should do is pay the guy that's got to eat.
Right. And they're saying the new like AI, generated Alexa and the new AI Siri is going to be more like conversational, where instead of saying like, "Hey Siri, what's the weather?" and it's just a straight sentence or response, now it's going to be more conversational. But do you think humans can still do the voice of a conversational assistant?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So what do you
That's
think
what actors, it's acting. So that would be part of, acting, is to get a conversational sound like that. And I've already heard, even though I really don't use virtual assistants very much, what I've heard recently is that, Siri will say, Siri should go,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yes. She'll go, yeah.
Oh
What?
my gosh, just you doing that is cracking me up.
Would you then be down, hypothetically, to come back and do like a Siri type thing with your voice and maybe using whatever magic they've got so that it works conversationally with people? Would you be willing to come back and like do it again?
It depends. I've done a lot of different kinds of voice work in my career, and it just depends on how much work it would involve, because the recordings that I did that ultimately became Siri and a lot of other things took months and months and months, and 4 hours a day, 5 days a week. It was grueling,
Wow.
and so I'm at the stage of my life where it's like, do I really want to spend that many hours doing that?
Yeah.
I mean, Apple's got a lot of money though.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, well, you can't spend your much money to no longer talk or something.
True.
That's true. That's true. Do you have like a favorite sort of celebrity voice out there that you think like, oh, they would make a fantastic sort of virtual assistant?
Oh, gosh, I can't really think of any particular voice right now. Yeah.
How about this? If myself or Charlie was
Charlie
gonna
or
be
Charlie?
was gonna be like a virtual assistant, whose voice do you think is better suited to do such
Ooh.
jobs?
Well, I would have to say female Charlie has less of an accent, so she
Oh.
would probably be the choice.
Even though I have a Valley Girl accent, is that still okay?
Well, you could learn not to say Valley Girl.
True. Oh,
I like that.
Siri as a Valley Girl. I'm dying.
I like Siri as a Valley Girl.
Yeah, that's a Siri.
Sarah. Have you ever gotten in your car and, they have like the virtual assistants even in their car now, which will like, turn on and they'll say something, or like if you honk a horn, it says something now. Like
Yeah.
you're finding this not just like on your iPhone, your computer, iPad or whatever. You're finding this in your car now too. Who do you think, if not you, who do you think would be the next best voice that people should be eyeing and hire for something like this?
Well, I found all that stuff horrible. I don't like mechanical things talking to me. But having said that, I think probably I'm not really sure. I can't really name a particular actress, but I think it would the best thing for that kind of situation is a person that has a softer voice and can talk like that, and it's very pleasant when they tell you, "I'm sorry, you've made the wrong turn."
Yes.
So kind of like Scarlett Johansson a
Yeah,
little bit. Her
exactly.
voice is like
Yeah,
soft.
she's not quite that breathy, but she's very soft and very likable sounding. Yes, for sure.
What do you think, if we're speculating, is going to be the future of virtual assistants, the future of Siri? Like in 10 years' time, are there going to be like Siri robots who'll go and do the shopping for you or walk your dog for you?
Or you can date Siri.
Or you could date Siri? If you were going to put on your tinfoil hat and just go, I think this is going to happen in 10 years, what do you think is going to happen?
Oh, I think sky's the limit. I can't even imagine what's going to end up happening here, really. But I think that we've got to be careful that we get rid of all the humans in this, because humans got to work and make money and, live.
So what do you see? What do you see it being then? If you cast your mind forward?
Oh, I have no idea. Just automatic everything, I guess.
Mm.
And the real downside to that, especially with kids, is that, people aren't using their brains. They're letting their devices do all the thinking for them, and I don't think that's good. I think, we've got a brain for a reason. We should use it.
I think it's so interesting that Siri or yourself, Susan, is so sort of like skeptical of this new technology. I mean,
you were kind of the trailblazer,
True.
in a way.
Yes, but you have to remember that I'm 75 years old.
Well,
and
you
I
look
have
great.
Thank you.
And sound great.
And
That was
sound
the
great.
right answer. That was
Yeah.
the right answer. So I have a different skew on things. You have to remember that I grew up without computers. I grew up without any of that sort of technology. And so, I'm a little skeptical of something that's just going to totally replace a human.
Yeah. But
I mean, it's very handy. It's very handy at times to have a device that, responsive.
Right.
I'm so curious, Susan. I'm just like, I'm not over it that you just have this like iconic, recognizable voice. Do you ever call a restaurant and just turn up the Siri voice a little bit to get that reservation? Do you ever use it to your advantage?
I haven't done that yet, because you'd be amazed at the number of times that the people don't expect to hear it, and so they don't notice it. And in fact, people have asked me before, well, do people ever recognize your voice? And I said, in all these years, only 2 people have recognized my voice.
Is
One
that
was
Really?
2 people.
Where was it?
One was a banker and one was a waiter. And they both said, boy, your voice sounds really familiar. Are you?
No
No way. weird.
You've
That's
got a
so
good ear.
funny.
You're in the wrong business. You should be somewhere in audio. Yeah.
Do you think,
Yeah.
would you prefer people to know what accomplishment you have? Like, you've done such an incredible thing that we all use, and you've only been recognized twice. Would you prefer a bit more of that sort of validation that comes with being so impactful?
It doesn't bother me to, to be sort of not known, as the voice. It's not a problem for me. For me, I love to work. I loved doing the work, even though none of us got paid for usage. We all got paid quite well for doing the recordings, but we didn't, get paid for being on millions of iPhones and things like that.
That seems
Oh my
that seems messed up to me.
gosh.
I'd be
Apple,
like,
go buy another building on me.
I know that annoys me for you a bit.
I
like,
know.
damn, I talk to you I talk to Siri every day, and then it's just
Well,
like,
the thing is, it's a life lesson. I mean, it's I'm not the only one. Everybody in the world has to deal with something that's happened to them that they don't like, or that they wish had been different. And so, you can either be bitter about it and just fall apart, or you can accept it and try to make it work for you in some way, which is what I did with the Siri thing. It started my speaker career. And so it worked out. It took me a while,
Yeah.
I'll tell you, because it was so weird.
And
Just imagine that someone gives you a phone and it's your voice on it. And what?
that's crazy.
That would just be so insane.
Yeah.
And just kind of like you said, your generation, like something like this was never around. And now there's all these voices. We mentioned AI voices, in your car, your phone, everywhere. It's all around you. Do you think the world would be better off if all these just go away?
Well, I think that people would be more responsible for their own thoughts and actions if you didn't have, your device to guide you through your day. But there's no way it will ever go away. I mean, unless somehow they figure out someone bombs all the electrical places and we have to start talking to each other again.
Right. Wow, what would that be like?
Before we let you go, can you make sure you subscribe to the TMZ podcast hosted by Charlie and Charlie? Would you be able to do that? You can't?
I can't do that
Wait.
unless you pay me.
Oh!
You've
No,
learned your
can't do that.
lesson. You've
Yeah,
learned your
Yeah,
lesson.
I have. I learned my lesson. Yeah, it took a lot of
Siri
years.
is also
What
smart.
What I can say is, I've really enjoyed talking with you, Charlies.
Okay.
Lying. Wow.
Well, thank you so much, Susan.
Thank you so much, Susan.
Thank
You're
you,
the
I
best.
enjoyed it.
Thank you. All right, we'll catch you next time. And you guys don't
Okay.
forget to subscribe to the TMZ podcast. Thank you for joining us today.
Bye.